Okay, part 3. Should continue on. I took a break for lunch, so I really don't know where I left off in the conversation. It's just moving on. I was thinking of breaking this thing, and you know, this dude needs some shoes. What do you think? Humor and art. You know, I mean, the comic books obviously have a great deal of humor in them. And I guess, what's his first name? William Hogarth was a satirist, like Daumier. And so they used humor in their art quite a bit. I'm just trying to think of other artists that use humor because, you know, I mean, of the ones you might see hanging in a National Gallery or something like that. I mean, I think humor is good, great. I love it, quite frankly. I think everybody does. You don't see it a whole lot in what you call the super fine arts, which I think is unfortunate, because I think it's could be a major aspect. And I might be all wrong about what I'm saying. I probably am. You know, I mean, what made me even think about this is just, obviously this is very much a caricature of a shoe and a foot, and it's a little reminiscent of those crazy bulbous, I just say that word right, feet that R. Crumb would draw. You know, the big shoes with the old "Keep on Trucking" slogan and all the other stuff that was big back in the early 70s and late 60s, I guess. I mean, pop art had an element of, cast a shadow with these shoes. Why not? Well, this paper gets a little tricky right there because I'm going to wind up cutting my hand if I'm not careful. My little push pins, which are giants. If I had a pegboard here, I'll show you how you can throw one of these things and make it stick. You hold it like this in your hand. I don't know if you can see anything there. Anyway, you do like this. And then you curl it around like that. And then you throw the thing, and like spiraling a football, you undo the finger, and the daggone little pushpin will fly straight and stick right into the wall. One of the unique little things I learned somewhere. I don't remember where. At work, I think, when I used to work. I'm retired now. Somebody showed me how to do that. He took one of those things, he threw it right up into the ceiling, and it stuck. I said, "Wow, how'd you do that?" He says, "Oh, I'll show you." So he showed me. And I tried it. It won't stick on a wall as hard as this, but if you got like like one of those soft bulletin type boards that either have cork or they've got what they call that material, Homosote board, which is kind of like a paper product that is used because you can stick push pins and stuff like that into it a million times. Okay, I'm getting to a point where I have no rest for my hand. I could never draw a portrait like this. I mean, I'd have to have some rest for the hand. Otherwise, you can't control what you're drawing. Of course, with a drawing like this, it's not such a big deal because it's certainly not a detailed drawing, so, or a realistic drawing, so you don't have to be so careful with whether you get the forms right or not. All you really want to do is just say, that's a shoe, and everybody sees it. They go, oh yeah, it's a shoe. It's got his shoes popped out right there. That's the beauty of using caricature, I guess, versus having to be realistic like that painting I showed you earlier. I don't have to be realistic, but I mean, it was a choice in that picture. It was a fairly difficult and time-consuming painting. I mean, it's done with acrylic, and I did a grid method, although I've got plenty where I don't use the grid. I just draw freehand. Just for Facebook. And but that one I used the grid, and I gridded up, mosaicked my photo images together that I wanted to use, and then I put a 1-inch grid across it, and then I gridded up the canvas. I don't know what they were now, but probably about 4 or 5 inch grid, you know, squares. To and then you eyeball the drawing again, just kind of paying attention to where essentially the contours of the important shapes intersect in the little box that you're drawing. I mean, that's how Chuck Close did it, but his squares were really very small, and even though his canvases were very large, his squares were like that, you know, they were really very small. So I mean, the detail from the photograph that he paints is very stunning because of that. With the larger grid, there's more room for interpretation, and certainly more room for mistake. And mistakes are good. Like I was saying earlier about the style of people's art. I mean, you know, our limitations define the style, and I think it's very, very true. I mean, I guess you could really say that about what they call outsider art now. It used to be called naive or primitive or whatever you want, you know, like Henry Rousseau was what they would call a primitive, what we today would call outsider. Outsider art is very, very popular, and I think there's a lot of crossover too between those who are classified as outsiders, but yet those who just work in a very kind of caricaturish style that allows them to just, like, let's face it, most of the time they're drawing with people, figures. It allows the figures to be almost anything you want, like the old Beavis and Butthead comics, you know, I mean, cartoons, TV, the animation. I mean, they were very funny. And the drawings were really imaginative too. I did a mural for a restaurant here, restaurant/bar, and I used kind of that style to draw the figures in it, and it was fairly large. I occupied a full wall. It was a fun thing to do. But I remember people saying, I like that Beavis and Butthead style you're doing. And of course at the time I really didn't consciously think about Beavis and Butthead and the two characters. I don't know who the artists are who create that. I'm sure there's a million people on YouTube who do, or you could just go look them up. They probably got a million videos there too. It's like Ren and Stimpy, who were also pretty popular back in the 80s. I'm going to show my age here a little bit, but it's just how it is. It's pretty funny stuff. I don't think it would be considered inappropriate today. It's hard to say. There's a lot of stuff of R. Crumb's that is inappropriate, but I guess considering the time that it was done, and I don't know if that lets it off the hook, but I mean, let's just say it's I need an even lower chair. I need to be almost down on the floor. I'm too old for that nonsense. It's funny when you doodle how you fill in the gaps and the spaces in between, I mean, once you hit on a contour, for a shape, I mean, the repetitiveness of that contour is kind of carried throughout. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing or necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's a thing. That's all that I do, which creates pattern, which is a big part of doing a picture like this. I mean, if people are interested in doing this, I mean, you could also do it with bilateral symmetry. Go right up the middle and do like what do they call those things? Mandalas, that are your little meditative focus point, like a sand painting, Native American sand painting, or a Tibetan, I guess it's sand. I think they use little beads or something. And then when they're finished with the meditative process, they just wipe it all away. It's all wiped out. I think that's an interesting way to do art. We're so, you look in the art magazines and you go to the art stores, to purchase materials and things like that. And archival is just, everything's got to be archival because the makers of the stuff freak you out into thinking that whatever you do has got to last 10,000 years. And it's like, well, what the hell is that? Why does that have to do that? I mean, this is pretty crummy paper. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it, but I mean, who knows how long it will last, but you've got to have, acid-free, that sounds ridiculous, acid-free mat board and acid-free materials, and galleries won't accept it unless you are doing this kind of stuff, and I don't know that all of that is necessarily so important, if you want to know the truth. I mean, pieces can have a time element to them, they're good enough for as long as they exist, and then maybe they deteriorate after a number of years and they're gone. And that's okay. That's all right. I've got a picture where everything is done wrong. And it's of my great-great-grandmother. And I should probably walk the computer over and show you to you, because it's not a bad picture. I'll even bring the picture over here. In fact, I think I will. Hold on for a minute. I can get it. It's kind of heavy. Oops, sorry about this. There it is, see? It's a frame, there's no mat. It's a pencil enhanced photograph taken of my great-grandmother. It's got crummy wood, and if you take this off, it's just regular old brown paper backing it up, and it's mounted on just like cardboard. And she looks like maybe she's in her 30s, maybe right there. So this would put this around, this photograph was probably taken around 1880. And it's held up pretty good for that amount of time. So I got the same piece of wire on the back too. So I mean, the point is, that thing's held up pretty well for, let me get a quick math on that, a long time. I mean, she was born in 1840 something, 1846 maybe, I think. And I'm very lucky to have old pictures like that. But it just kind of puts a another dimension to the idea of what really is archival. I mean, Van Gogh supposedly painted on burlap a lot of times. I know that Gauguin did, because you can see it very clearly. You don't see it so much as, you don't see it as clear in Van Gogh because there's so much heavy thick paint on there. It's sometimes covered up with the texture of the ground that he worked with. Okay, I'm getting near. Oh, I'm good. I got a little. Let's put this back over here. I tell you, I will definitely get better at filming these things because I ain't much at it right now. But this is the first time I've ever done this, so you know, I watched some videos and I said, you know, I could start a channel. I can do this. You know, I'm probably going to actually post. Well, I already posted yesterday's stuff. I'm going to probably put this up. I'll bring it into 3 parts because people see that 1 hour, 50 minutes, they're going to go, forget it. Man, I don't even want to listen to you talk for that long. And sorry that I'm left-handed, but that's just the way it is. And then just live with the fact that they're not going to be it's not going to be a very good quality here. But it's a learning experience, and you know what? I just messed up. How about that? I messed up the sequence. Could you imagine a king snake or a, what the heck are they called? Coral snake? Not having unified bands going down their back, and you might not be able to identify the two from each other, which could be problematic since the coral snake has a neurotoxin in its bite, which is kind of deadly. You want to be able to identify those snake markings pretty clearly. It's the second time I've brought up snakes, and it always comes up when I get over to these type of shapes. It must be suggesting it to me. You know, this is kind of a snake. I'm pretty comfortable right here, right now. You know, I mean, I do lots of squares, little dashes, little chevrons, little diamonds, little circles with shading on one side or the other. Let's put somebody coming out of a wall here. Start with the schnoz. Schnoz being a nose. We'll give him some funky eyes and a forehead and some wild looking hair. I'm on my second one of these, so you can kind of, I showed you earlier how large this is. It's about 4 feet by 6 feet. And these markers only go so far. I'm going to probably go through 2 of them, that's for sure. And I'm kind of, I don't want to open up the next one because it's just, I paid $12 for how many came in the thing. 6 of them. So they're a little, well, it's not that much, but, you know, it's kind of like, come on. But I think also, I'm doing a lot of hatching in order to get the black areas. And if I had the chisel marker, which is actually a little bit fatter than this one, it would probably go even better because I get more coverage that way. And it's obviously must have more ink in it, so that looks like my father. Isn't that weird? They always say that every portrait you draw is actually a self-portrait, which look like me. That schnoz looks like me, for sure. I don't know if I buy that. I've heard that all my life. Kind of a cool saying. Every portrait you draw is a self-portrait. regardless of the gender or any of that stuff. You know, just it's a self-portrait as you're drawing yourself. I don't buy that. The portraiture is portraiture is interesting. I mean, actually, it's very hard, as I think anybody would know. But it's also interesting for the fact that if you are just making up characters, like I just did right here, that you begin to draw on things that are in your memory that you're not even aware of. They're floating up from your subconscious mind. And now I don't know if that's really what's happening, or perhaps what you draw has enough elements to kind of trigger off saying, oh, that looks like, you know, I mean, everybody, oh, look, I see a bird in your picture. I see, you know, whatever it is in your picture. I don't see anything in your picture. Why don't you throw it away? And it's interesting to see that, because, I mean, I'll look at things and say, oh, that looks like blah, 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 you know, or this person, that person. And then I will think about it for a while, maybe a day or something like that, and I'll recollect that I was thinking about that very individual, that it winds up, you know, maybe a day or earlier or something like that. I was thinking about that very individual who crops up in the face, you know, who looks like that person that I just drew, whether it's, you know, a cartoon-looking face or whether it's, you know, one like these. I guess I did her from my imagination. You can see how that looks. And the gold leaf didn't work out real well, but I'm going to try it again. Get the angle right. You can see the figures and stuff like that in there pretty good. Or this one right here, which I like these. They turned out pretty well, you know. And she looks like somebody I know, but I can't think of who the heck it is, you know. But I mean, it's just somebody straight out of my imagination. And I put them on foam core board so they stay flat, so when I added the gold leaf, it wouldn't become a mess, but it didn't work out all that well. I had to spray them too with fixative, because they're done part with a gel pen and part done with a graphite pencil. And the graphite smears like crazy. So you really need to, there's some artist, I don't know what his name is, I didn't pay that much attention, but he does these really great, fantastic drawings with graphite, and he uses gold leaf a lot in it, and I mean, the guy is like a master. It's just like incredible. I mean, how well he draws and how interesting his pictures are. And he uses that, as you call it, that Art Nouveau motif, because I guess everybody knows Gustav Klimt, because the movie #1, whatever it was called, the woman with the gold painting or something like that. And, you know, and he was a major star of the Art Nouveau movement. And he definitely used a lot of gold leaf. But I mean, this guy, his fantasies are, they're, I don't know how to describe them. They're kind of mythological looking, you know, strange kind of, you know, cultish clans and stuff, tribal clans from an era in the past that is not very distinct, but, you know, you can kind of guess it's probably around medieval times or something like that. And the pictures are just really fabulous. I mean, he just does, he's got such a feel for what he's doing. Sorry, I don't know his name. I could look him up and give you his name. You can go look at his stuff. I think I'll do that in another video. I'll go get his name. I'd never heard of him before. But of course, that doesn't mean anything. And I just happened to see it when I was, you know, looking for gold leaf artwork with gold leaf in it. And I found it. And I found him, and I was just like, oh man, this is the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. They were pretty cool drawings. I have a weakness for that type of stuff. I'm not very good at it, but I like doing it anyway. And you saw the drawings. They're not like some you see, which are really good. I like what I do. I'm not unhappy with it. I'm just face facts. This guy's got an arm coming out here, so let's put his arm coming down here. He's got a coat on, so he must have like a little button at the end of his coat, like that. And then we'll, I don't want to put anything violent in his hand. I don't like violence at all. I don't like violent things. I don't like violent games. I have watched war movies and stuff like that. I guess everybody watches those, you know. But I really, I'm not into playing war games. That just seems really strange to me. I won't say sick because it's not sick, but it's just strange. It's a very strange looking hand. I mean, for me, how's this looking on the camera? It's nice to have the computer there so I can look at the screen and see how this thing's turning out. And this thing looks pretty good on the computer. I don't know what it's going to look like when I get up close and look at it, but I mean, it looks pretty decent, you know. And I think it's going to all work out good when I get to doing time-lapse photography on this. Although that said, there's something nice about breaking this up into 3 parts, and people can kind of digest it a little bit at a time, you know, if they're interested in watching what I do. And or you can just say, okay, I've had enough of this, I don't want to see it anymore. And away you go. And you don't have to worry about it, you know, because you're not into it for an hour, you know, it's like, oh, okay, there's 15 more minutes, I already watched an hour, what do I do now? You know, and it's like you don't want to see the rest of it. You feel like an idiot because you wasted an hour looking at it. That happens. What can you say? There's another guy on YouTube, and I forget his name also, but I think he's called, I don't know what he's called, line, square, circle, or something like that. And he does perspective drawings, and he does them with pencil. And they're not necessarily complicated, but they are the coolest looking drawings because it's just the simplicity of the things that he includes in his perspective sketches are really nice, and they just look outstanding when you see them on the computer screen. And I will look him up too. Actually, I got him saved. I subscribed to this page. I'll have to get that and share who he is, because his drawings are very, very imaginative, I think. You know, very, very simple things, just like a road, maybe some railroad cars, and you know, sidewalks, telephone poles, bushes, trees, etc., etc. And they don't necessarily, there's nothing exotic about it, but there's just the black and white and the very subtle shading, you know, for the tonal aspects of it. And it just makes for a very satisfying drawing to look at. They're really quite good, and they're very simple. There's no great story involved. There's no, you know, symbolism or what did he mean or anything. There's none of that. It's just a nice looking drawing that you know is a fantasy place, because it doesn't have enough of what we would associate with something that's realistic in it to be considered realistic. But yet it uses all the principles that you would use for perspective drawing and getting the space correct. And the drawings are plausible. They kind of look like, you know, sometimes I remember when I was a kid and you'd buy a model of a car or something like that, you know, and the box would have an illustration on it. And the people who did these illustrations were really good artists. And there's the guy's hand. And I remember the boxes were as good as the model you would build. You just look at it and say, oh man, that's such a cool drawing. It's a Ferrari 330p or something like that, you know. Really looks cool. And I admire guys who used to do that type of illustrating. And I'm sure it's still around. You still find people who can do that. Although this day and age, the digital realm has kind of taken over a lot of that, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with digital artwork. I think it's very good. And it's amazing how many people use the images to construct their art. There's this one woman who was doing kind of fanciful portraits, you know, and they're really done very, very nicely. And they're done very specifically like Art Nouveau, with all the decorative floral stuff around the edges and all of the I don't know if there's lettering in hers or not. Now that I think about it, but I mean they're done in an Art Nouveau style, period. And you know the hairstyles, the whole works. And what she does is she just traces the images. She prints out the face and then traces it off. But then when she gets to doing the color, usually watercolor in there, that's where she really has an eye for the tonalities and everything involved with the color that makes the color vibrant, but it also makes the image of the person really come alive and quite realistic looking too, for that matter. Let's see if this other pen has got any more juice going in it now. And she's a very good artist. I don't know what her name is, and I forgot. But you know, that Art Nouveau style, which was, you know, popular in the Victorian age, is very, very good. Although I guess I don't know why I talk so much about art history. I got to talk about something, right? The style really known more for, I think, architecture and also furniture and stuff like that. Because I mean, the wild and beautiful pieces of furniture that come from that era are just stunning. Everything has an organic flow to it, you know. Really exceptional stuff. But the paintings were pretty exceptional also. And Klimt's stuff is very good, although he's not quite like some of them, but he's a master artist, I can say. I love looking at art. I mean, you know, that's what I do in the evening on YouTube. I just kind of pop up. I got rid of my cable TV. I just, you know, I don't watch on TV anymore. So I'm just going to watch stuff on YouTube. So I watch either those mashup dance things, you know, where they got, what's his name, Bruno Mars, you know, he takes his music and they take old 30 clips of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and Judy Garland and all these other people and they go dancing all over the place to the contemporary music. It's really cool. I love that. I watch a lot of old Michael Jackson videos. I love his dancing. I just think it's spectacular. I think he's one of the best entertainers ever, period. That's it, end of story. And and then I watch a lot of art ones that I like. There's this one guy who I watch a lot by the name of Peter Draws. And I guess it's all right to talk about somebody else on my own video. And I just think I really recommend you watch him because he is just an interesting guy who has put together not only interesting artwork, but he puts together very interesting videos too. They have a great deal of his personality in them, and they go off on many tangents, which are actually pretty good because I think if you know, the instructional ones are good. I like them. Sometimes they get a little too didactic, you know. They just kind of You know, it's like, okay, you're telling me all this stuff. It's like, I don't want to hear all that, all the instructions and do this and make sure you don't do that and make, it's kind of like, screw all that stuff. I don't really care. I just want to see you draw. That's kind of the premise I'm taking. And you can just watch me draw and draw your own conclusions. What do you see anything that might be useful to you? Use it. It's that type of thing. You just like watching doing it, or maybe you find what I talk about to be interesting. It's hard to say. I never really thought I could talk this much while I drew. That aspect of it really surprises me. When I first sat down there and turned the computer on, I didn't know what the heck I was going to say. And I said, well, I'm going to say something. And it just kind of started to come out. I just started thinking about things rambling around in my brain, that are referential to art. Not necessarily my art, but just art in general, and even some things that are not, but in a way they are, because anytime you talk about, behavior and, how perception and stuff like that, you're dealing with the world of art and how it plays out. This thing's getting close to being done, which is good. I will have to, I don't have to do anything. I will get a snapshot and probably add that once I'm done up to the video. It's going to take me a few minutes to figure it out. In fact, quite frankly, I've forgotten how to even save this video. I got to go back and refresh my memory on that. I opened the daggone camera up and started shooting stuff, and it's like, okay, now where is it? And it took me like a half hour to figure out where the hell it even went. And so, needless to say, I'm not the best at computers. Didn't have computers when I was younger. At school, we had mimeograph. We didn't have copiers. We had mimeograph machines, which is that old blue ink. That'll be interesting. That's an interesting way to make some artwork. You get your hands on an old mimeograph machine. I bet you could find one on eBay for next to nothing. Nobody would want it. So many different ways to do art. I saw that guy Peter Draws, and he had what's called a 3D pen, and it's kind of like a hot glue gun that just keeps melting. It looks like it was plastic, I guess, and it just keeps coming out in strands, and you just kind of pile it up because it dries almost instantly. Much like you have to excuse me for clearing my throat so much, but talking this much kind of irritates me. So you wind up making a sculpture out of it, which is kind of, it made a sculpture very unique, a lot of interesting radial lines and stuff like that to it. And things like that, I don't know, sometimes you better have some good ventilation if you're going to fool with it, would be my guess, but I don't know for sure. I've never really done sculpture. I've always just been somebody who, I don't know why I'm doing stars, who just likes to draw mostly. I've seen people work on cardboard too a lot, which is kind of neat. I think one thing would be really cool is to do a complete animated video just by using cardboard cutouts for figures, and then just do, stop action, moving, that type of thing, and do a whole story that way. It'd be kind of cool. You could cut into I think he's Australian. I forgot his name. He does charcoal drawings, then he erases it, and then draws the next thing, shoots it, then erases it, draws the next thing. His name is Kindler or something like that, and Keltner. I forget. I'll have to look him up. But I mean, I saw a show of his at the Hirshhorn, and the animations are fabulous. And And the way he does it is just intriguing. He'll put it to, like, you know, in this case, this is a video where music does help. And he'll put it to, I don't know, a classic composer like Dvorak or something like that. And hopefully his name will come back to me while I'm drawing, because I know it begins with a K, but I can't think of what it is. And the animations are just spectacular. It's like watching a charcoal drawing come to life. And he has a big show, I think, in Italy right at the moment. Or maybe coming up, something like that. Maybe it was last year. I don't know. I didn't go see it, but I just know it did. My daughter told me about it. What's his name? It's going to drive me nuts. Somebody listening, if there is anybody listening, will be able to say, I know it is, dummy. Oh boy, thunderstorm coming. Wow, it's raining. Glad I don't have to go anywhere. And I guess you all heard that boom. Oh man, this is getting near the end here. It's kind of a bummer. Actually, you could just keep going on the drawing. I mean, you don't really have to stop. You could just draw until the whole thing is black. I saw a piece at the Hirshhorn, and it was the guy took all of the ink that would have been used, judging by the amount of letters and the font of the type, in Karl Marx's Das Kapital, I think, is what it's called, I'm not sure, and just made one big black square of all the ink. All the ink, this is all the ink, you know, that would be in that story. Puts a interesting lean on materials and what the materials actually mean, and you know, where meaning comes from, and all that stuff. You know, it poses interesting questions. I mean, a lot of people will say, "Well, what the hell's the point of that?" And you know, I get that part of it too. But I thought it was a really interesting piece. I fortunately don't remember the artist's name, but that seems to be the same problem with the other artists. I don't remember their name. I know my name, but that's good enough. And so that was pretty good. I was in a room with, you know, I'm not an artist name dropper. I just have a tendency to talk about a lot of these things because I like them. That's the main thing. You know, I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to be like an art snob. I mean, yeah, I'm familiar with a fair number of artists, but obviously you can see I can forget their names pretty easily. It's in a room with some Saul LeWitt work, which is kind of takes a similar sort of thing, because he would map out drawings and then he'd have other people execute them. I thought that was a great idea, and he felt that the idea was the sole purpose of doing a piece of artwork, and if the idea was good, that it easily would be worth reproducing. So it kind of puts an entire different attitude on the idea of the original having more worth than any reproduction. I mean, he said, no, I welcome reproductions. It's just, you know, because it just spreads the idea even further. Yeah, I think that's an interesting approach to what he was doing as an artist, you know. I mean, because, you know, there's that Da Vinci painting that, I guess they call it the male Madonna or something, and it's, I don't speak Italian, but I think it's Salvatore del Mundo, the savior of the world. I don't know if I said that right, but anyway, it's that collector from the Middle East bought it for I don't know how many millions of dollars. And it's, I think, the most expensive piece of artwork ever sold. And obviously the idea was not as important as the name in that case. Because it said Da Vinci, it had all that value. All of a sudden, from a collector's viewpoint, which I'm not going to say that's a snob's viewpoint, but I'm going to say that's a snob's viewpoint. So I guess, it's just, I just think paying that kind of money for artwork is stupid. You could spend your money on a lot better things than that. I'm just about out of paper. I think I'm going to call this drawing to a halt. And I'll stand up and I will, I shot 40 minutes. I have to figure out how to break that up. All right, I'm going to stand up and stand back and back the camera up so you can see what it is, see the whole thing. And with my little crummy lights, which I really got to do better than this when it comes to lighting, we'll show off the artwork a bit. All right, let's pick this up without knocking over Coca-Cola cans and stuff like that. All right, have I got there yet? All right, so we got it straight. I'll try to stand real still. Okay, there it is. It's all done. I finished my doodle. I don't have a title for it. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you find the artwork fascinating or intriguing. You can see that's a good angle right there. I like that. Let's measure it and see what I said it was. Not quite 6 feet. It's 4 feet by 5 feet. So that's a pretty big drawing. And I enjoyed doing it. And I will be starting another one probably tomorrow. So that means I'll get the old video camera. I'll give you some close-ups of it too. You can see it up close as long as I don't knock everything over. Now you can see the pen work and how I do it. If I get my big fat shadow out of the way. There you go. I sit down up in here in this area. I got some strange eyeballs looking at you. All this other stuff. So, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day, and see you next time. Bye.